Good morning, everybody. Noah Akitaru. It's good to see everyone here virtually today. Today is Saturday, August 7, 2021. The time is 10:12, and we are gathered here today to have the Pawnee Business Council quarterly meeting. And I'd like to call our meeting to order at this time and ask if Vice President Canuho could render an opening invocation, please, sir.
Yes, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father, we come to you today, God, as we just once again thank you for a new day. And Father, as we meet together as a fully together business council, I pray that, Father, you just please be with every council member that is represented here today. That, God, you would give us wisdom, Father, and guidance and discernment, Father, where we need this to help do what's good for our Pawnee people, Father. So I just ask, God, that you just be with President Echohawk as he oversees and conducts the meeting today. Lord, I just pray that, Father, you just continue to be with our Pawnee people, Father, and those who just here recently lost loved ones. God, we just again pray for peace. We pray for comfort, Father. Lord, your word tells us, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted, Father. So we know on that promise alone, God, that they are receiving it. But Father, we also pray, Father, and lift them up to you once again. Lord, we do pray for our elders, God, during this time as well, that you would just continue to watch over them, protect them, God. And Lord, we just pray for our young people, God, as they're preparing to go back to school. We ask that, God, as they get ready for this, Father, that your hand would be upon them, your protection would be upon them as well. And Lord, as we just see our Pawnee Nation continue to move in the right direction, I pray that, Father, your hand would be upon us. I pray for unity within our council. I pray for unity within our nation. Father, that, God, though we may have differing opinions at times, Lord, ultimately, God, we do, Father, what is right for our Pawnee people. And God, we also do what is right in your sight, God. And so, Lord, I just pray for this meeting today as we conduct business, Father, that, God, we do all these things, Father, for your name and for your glory. I love you, God, and I thank you, Father, once again for allowing us to have this time to do the work, Father, for our people today. Leave it all in your hands, pray, and ask your will be done, for it's in your Son, my Savior, Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Noah Eri, Vice President Iriwe Turahe, thank you. All right, folks, I want to thank everyone for being here, taking time out of your Saturday, both council members and staff who are present here, including our executive director. I believe I saw our attorney general here as well. And so I want to thank everyone for being here, and I appreciate that. Mr. Secretary, will you call for the roll, please?
Walter Echohawk.
Ditaku.
Jordan Canuho.
Present.
George Garvey here. Carol Chapman.
Here.
Cynthia Butler.
Here.
Donna Hare.
Itaku.
Gene Evans.
Here.
Tammy Kimball.
Here.
Thank you, Council. All hands on deck. So I'm grateful for that. First item up is the approval of the agenda. And Mr. Secretary, I understand we have some additions to the amendment. Could you let our council and our tribal members know what the additions are, please, sir?
Yes, under section 4, new business, number 5, approval of COVID committee appointments, and number 6, approval of child care renovations GMP contract not to exceed $429,870.22.
Thank you. Council, are there any other additions or changes to this agenda, please? Hearing none, may I ask for a motion to approve the agenda with the new additions, please?
I'll make a
motion.
Oh, I'll second.
Thank you, Vice President, for the motion, and the second, Mr. Secretary. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion, please? Hearing none, call for the vote, Mr. Secretary, if you
Gordon
would.
Canuho,
Yes.
George Gardner, yes. Carol Chapman,
Yes.
Cynthia Butler,
Yes.
Anna Hare,
Yes.
Gene Evans,
Yes.
Tammy Kimball.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Motion carries. So the turning to the agenda, first item up are a number of very important new business items, 6 of them. And the first one that is up is approval of Resolution 21-48, Section 813 Indian Healthcare Improvement Act. And who is going to present on that this morning? Is Carol here? Carol Nuttall, by any chance?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Excellent. Well, if I may, I'd like to ask if you could present on resolution 48 here, 2148. And I would just like to preface this, if I may. Currently, folks, the Pawnee Nation is operating a number of medical-related IHS programs that is supporting the local IHS Pawnee Clinic. And we had, in previous administrations, had retained Carol Nuttall and the Leader LLC to begin looking at the possibility of enlarging those programs under the PL of the Indian Self-Determination and Education Act. And we currently operate 4 programs under Title I of that act. And those are the CHR program, the Health Education Program, the Housekeeping and Grounds Services for the clinic, and the SUD program, Substance Abuse Program there. And we have been currently operating these programs under a contract pursuant to Title I of that legislation, the 638 legislation. Carol has spent a lot of time exploring the feasibility and possibility of moving these programs and possibly additional programs in the future from Title I of that act to Title IV of that act, which is a bigger step towards a better management and control of those existing programs, and possibly opens the door for our self-governance nation to assume more medical services and even medical programs. So she and her colleagues, and along the way they have retained an attorney for a legal counsel for the Pawnee Nation that are actually representing the Pawnee Nation. And so they've had a couple meetings with us recently as we contemplate entering into the medical field and broadening our medical work. Carol has laid out a 2-phase program for us. And the documents and resolutions that we're going to be considering today, both in 2148 and 2149, are basically a self-governance compact between the nation and the IHS, and a related associated funding agreement between the nation and the IHS to carry this out. And essentially what it's going to do, this is phase 1 of her recommendation, and that is to transfer our existing 4 programs that we currently operate from Title I of that Act to Title V of that Act. And beyond that, nothing would change except we would have an increased control and discretion over those services that we presently perform. And Carol and her attorneys, in collaboration with Brian and the staff here at the Nation, have prepared this resolution and the underlying compact and funding agreement to do that, make that transfer. And so with that general background, I'm thinking we're ready to take some action here on that, and this will be a big step towards moving towards self-governance Pawnee Nation with increased control over its existing services for the IHS clinic, Pawnee Nation Clinic, there on the reserve. With that, Carol, I'll turn this over to you, if I may, to present. Thank you.
Thank you, President Eckelhart. Good morning, Pawnee Business Council, each of you, and good morning, Okidata. It's good to be here with you all this morning. I have my partner, my CEO, standing in the wings, Miss Angela Thompson, just in case we have any additional financial questions. I just want to thank you for that excellent synopsis of what we're trying to accomplish here today, President Eckelhart. Your lawyerly skills are in good play, and I just have a lot of respect for what you bring to our tribe, and I thank you for that. So I really don't have too much more to add. As the President explained, tribal self-governance has an array of new authorities that allow the tribe to operate our IHS programs in a way that the tribe wants to operate them. It essentially moves the funding that is appropriated by Congress to the Indian Health Service for services to our people from the governmental umbrella to the tribal umbrella. So that way we then can operate our programs as we see fit and according to our own priorities. For example, if we felt like for some reason we needed more money in health ed, or say CHR, and we had extra money in health ed, then normally you'd have to ask the government for authority to do that. This provides that authority. So you can set your own goals, and if your goals is in the CHR program, you have extra money in health ed, you just make an amendment internally and approve it according to your own policies. And that way you can move money without any extra steps, so to speak. It really puts the responsibility as well right in the lap of the government. So we, as President mentioned, are proposing a two-phase, maybe two-phase approach to self-governance. Thinking that the most optimum way to get into tribal self-governance is to do what this project has done, and that is develop in tandem with legal review from our excellent subject matter experts, Hobbs, Strauss, Dean, and Walker, Ms. Starla Rose in Portland, Oregon. Excuse me. We developed the compact and the funding agreement. And so what we're suggesting today by these two resolutions is that Section 813, that's the first resolution on the table, would essentially give the tribe the opportunity and option and authority to serve non-beneficiaries at some point in the future. What that means is that if there is a non-Indian, so to speak, that comes to your clinic in the future and wants services, or even if you want to do it now, this would authorize you to do that. It's within the parameters of that all Indian people would get served first. And then if there's extra, then you would be able to serve non-bins. Many of the self-governance tribes do this today. The Choctaws, Chickasaws, and Chad, the Cherokee certainly is a leader in self-governance, do that. And the opportunities there is that if you're able to bring in additional third-party billing, and that third-party billing then can be put right back into your programs and increase your funding to the Pawnee people and other Indians that you serve. So that's what this resolution does. It just gives you the option of moving forward to include non-beneficiaries. You might not want to do it now, but if there comes a time in the future, your option is open, and that option is in section 813, which is the first resolution. That resolution will be part of resolution 2, which is the compact. It's a government-to-government compact. It's not where under Title I, where the government will set out certain parameters and tell the tribe, this is what we want you to do with this money, and you go in and you sign and you say, we'll do that, give us the money. This is more expansive. It offers you the opportunity to, as I said earlier, to have different authorities to combine programs. And for instance, the government, if you wanted to build a clinic, the government would have to use government federal money to do that. But if under self-governance, if the tribe has other opportunities available to them, other funding sources that the government don't have, you can go to HUD, you can go to Administration for Native Americans to help you build your infrastructure. You have all these other resources. You can combine those monies in your funding agreement without any audit exceptions, because the law allows you to do that. So we have developed in phase 1 to move your current programs into a tribal self-governance compact and funding agreement that we had prepared for you and that we went over the other day with you. That will get you into the self-governance ballpark, so to speak. That's step 1, just merely moving your currently operated programs from Title I to Title V self-governance. That's what we're proposing today. We have also done an extensive studying, asked for all of the information regarding the Pawnee tribal shares. And so phase 2 will be looking at all of the other programs that are available to the tribe under tribal self-governance. And one thing that we don't want to do is jump into a medical program that we're not fully prepared to operate. So what we're proposing in phase 2 is to look at resources and options for doing a deeper scale, if you will, developing your medical infrastructure, your administrative infrastructure, and making sure you have the appropriate staff and that sort of thing on board before you operate any medical programs. That will be phase 2. So we'll be meeting with the council in the future to discuss phase 2 and present the rest of the information that we have available to you. That will be all your tribal shares that you can put in your self-governance funding agreement. But the important thing is that at that point, should you decide to take one or take all of them, all of your tribal shares, you would be able to then just merely put those into your already existing compact and funding agreement that we hope you will approve today in an amendment. And you don't have to go through all of this whole process that we're going through now. You'll be in place to do that should you decide to move ahead. In a nutshell, I think that's it. Are there any questions? I am happy to answer them. Hearing none, and I know we went over these the other day as well, I would like to propose passage of resolution
2148.
What is it?
2148.
2148. And I don't know, Secretary, do you want to read that resolution to your council, or would you like for me to do it?
They all have it on team.
Marvelous. So this is section 813 resolution President, I'll turn it back over to you unless you'd like for me to.
Okay. Thank you, Carol. I think it makes sense, both Resolution 2148 is related to the next resolution that we will take up. But just for logistics sake, I would recommend that we go ahead and act on 2148 at this time, and then we can move to the related one later, and we'll have a separate presentation on that and the underlying documents. If that, unless there's any objection to that. Unless there's an objection, are there any, may I basically, unless there's any other questions of Carol, may I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2148.
I'll second.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Carol, Cynthia, and for your motion, and your second, Dr. Evans. Any discussion on this pending motion, folks? Hearing none?
I do. Yeah.
Donna?
I just wanted to make a point clear, is that we're accepting this to serve everybody at some point, but it doesn't obligate us at this point. We can make that decision when the time comes. And I think that we really have to be very careful and prudent in making that decision. So that, you know how our full bloods are, you know, to make sure that they get served, you know? Yeah. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment, Councilwoman here. Very good advice and well taken, to be sure.
Yeah, President Echohawk.
Yes, Vice
I
President.
was just gonna come alongside Councilwoman Harris' comment on that as well. I do appreciate what Carol Nell said about, you know, just not really jumping into it just right away on this as well. And as the resolution reads as well, is that this also continues to keep in mind that it doesn't impede any of the beneficiaries that are already seeing services at the IHS as well. So that also comes along too. So I think that's good for, you know, for our people and those who come to the IHS, those who come to seek the medical care that they have, and they have been in the, you know, up until today as well. But I think this is, you know, a good opportunity to open that door for us to begin to explore down the road of opening up to non-beneficiaries as well. And that'll just open up better opportunities for the Pawnee Nation for billing and those kinds of things. So appreciate it.
Yes, and I would just add to that it is also an opportunity to serve the local public here in our rural community as well. I know it's irritating to go to the clinic and get at the back of the line of a bunch of non-Indians, but it is serving a public need in the community. And I see Councilwoman Hare's hand is back up.
You touched on what I wanted to clarify when I mentioned full bloods, because we're not, our people don't have to be full bloods to be this way, but they're not always, they don't usually push themselves to the front of the line. And you touched on what I don't want to see happen is that our people feel that they're taking a back seat. And I know that with leaders that they're aware of that and those feelings, and they've seen that. So I just wanted us to watch out for that.
Yes. And I think when we get to that juncture of making that decision, we have a robust medical committee under the leadership of Dr. Evans that can be consulted, and we will certainly make our best judgment at that juncture, to be sure. Any other comments on the pending motion, folks? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, would you please call for the vote?
Gordon Canuho,
Yes.
Edward Gardapi, yes. Carol Chapman,
Yes.
Cynthia Butler,
Yes.
Donna Hare,
Yes.
Gene Evans,
Yes.
Tammy Kimball.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carries. Appreciate that. The second item on our agenda is a related one associated with this first one. This resolution dash 2149. Appended to this resolution is are two documents that would implement it. The first being the self-governance compact between the Pawnee Nation and the IHS that to transfer these 4 programs that I mentioned earlier to from Title I to Title V. Now, this compact has been prepared by our attorney, the Hobbs Strauss law firm, who are it's a very well-respected Indian law firm for many, many years. These attorneys and this law firm is one of the iconic law firms in Indian country with long experience. These particular attorneys that have been developed this document have a lot of hands-on experience in these kinds of documents. And I've reviewed these documents. We've been presented with them in draft form. It looks good to me. You know, it's outside of my area of special expertise, but I think we're protected in it. I did ask the attorney, is it Miss Rose, Starlet Rose, to reach out to our Attorney General, Mr. Smith. I did see some emails to that effect this week. I don't know to what extent our Attorney General has been able to drill down onto these documents, but I do have a comfort level because especially that these attorneys that have prepared this document are representing us. In other words, there are attorneys and not an attorney of any other third party. And they had recently signed a retainer agreement with our nation, so they're technically our own attorneys acting in our best interest here. So that's the first document. And then the second associated document attached to this resolution is a multi-year funding agreement between the IHS and the Pawnee Nation with respect to these 4 programs. And all of the same, I have all the same comments on the second document as I did for the first one. Now, assuming that all of our staff who are going to be administering these programs and doing the reporting and financing on it are comfortable with it, it looks to me that this is a very scrubbed document that we have received here, and it is ready to be signed. It would authorize, this resolution would authorize your president, yours truly, to sign these documents and pull the trigger. And so I'm comfortable with it. Unless any of our staff on the line here have concerns about it, now's the time to let us know what your concern is, because in my view, I feel like we're ready to plow forward here and approve, but that's just my thought at this stage. With that introduction, Carol, I'll turn the floor over to you.
She was meeting with her staff. Okay, thank you again for that wonderful introduction to this second resolution. In a nutshell, yes, this authorizes the president or his designee to enter into a tribal self-governance compact and funding agreement with the United States through the Indian Health Service. The funding agreement will, you all, please forgive me, my allergies are really kicking. Apologize. The multi-year funding agreement is also a self-governance document that technically moves the programs that we're doing under Title I over to a self-governance program. The good thing about this funding agreement is that it is good until you negotiate another one. This is a real plus, so to speak, and a real win for self-governance tribes. They fought hard to get this subsequent funding agreement provision in the law. And what that means is that you can negotiate this one, you'll be moving your Title I programs over to it, and it will stay in place until you decide you want to come in and renegotiate it. It is a 2-year term. That's why it's called multi-year. However, should you decide for some reason, thank you, that you do not want to negotiate in 2 years, your funding will still keep coming on a regular basis. The other good thing about it is that the programs that you have in there, if there are any congressional changes to that funding, they will if there are increases, they'll automatically be applied. So say you had, say there was a congressional increase, sometimes you'll get pay cost increases on an annual basis. Sometimes you'll get cost of living increases, or hopefully even program increases into your base funding that Congress might authorize. And so those, you don't have to go in and do an amendment. Those are automatically added to your funding agreement by the Indian Health Service. So, and then the good thing about it is, say you started out with a $500 budget and you got a $100 increase, that the next time for next year, you would start out at $600. You wouldn't go back to that same first year $500 amount. So it can build on itself as long as Congress don't decrease it. You're in really good shape. We are in good shape. So that's one good thing about the funding agreement. I think that's what I wanted to tell you all. Oh, yes, and your concerns about the staff, thank you so much. We have been working with Brian Kirk since day one and his staff at when he was in planning, and when he moved up, we kept him in he still is our main contact person. But Tiffany as well, we worked with her over a year in some things. She's aware a little bit about the phase 2 options that we're going to be presenting to you later, and she's had access to the documents, as has Brian, and the program descriptions that are in the funding agreement are taken directly from your Title I contract, the language in there, so that we're not adding anything new or anything at that time. We're just trying to move you over into tribal self-government. So this will put all your funding into one funding agreement, and it'll be in one pocket. And I believe that's all I have. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Carol. Are there any questions? And I would also invite Brian to add to what Carol has said and let us know whether any of the staff, and if Tiffany's here, she's also most welcome to add to the presentation as well. I just want to be sure that it all looks good to me conceptually, legally. I think we have a polished proposal here, but I just want to be assured that the staff who will be administering these new Title V programs are comfortable with it. It doesn't appear to me to be there's going to be any substantive change to the services themselves. It'll pretty much be the status quo, but it's just that we're moving the framework from Title I to the Title V self-governance with framework with increased tribal discretion and control over them and responsibility. So let me just call on Brian if I may, and then we'll open it up to questions. But what are the staff comfortable with this, Brian? I guess that's my question to you, sir.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we've been working with leaders and for a while now on this project. So this is nothing that's going to put extra burden, I believe, on my staff, but it gives us the flexibility, kind of like what they mentioned earlier, is when we are reviewing our programs, we have the flexibility of kind of having that possibility of moving money around to support other programs if services are needed. So it gives us a better way to serve our people and means of providing better services through our different programs, through these different compacts. So I don't think it's going to add any more burden, but it allows them to have that flexibility to provide better services when they're looking at all the programs at once.
Will this increase the financial work of the finance division? And if so, are they good with that?
No, I don't think it, with the processes we have internally already, I don't think it's going to be anything different, especially when we look at our overall budgets. It's just kind of moving money from one end to another, which we can do internally. Because we'll get the notice of award and all that. So we'll just have to work where we want to put the monies at. So I don't think it'll add any additional stress on finance.
Thank you. Let me ask Attorney General Smith for your take on the documents from the legal standpoint, if I may, Attorney General.
Good morning. I have not seen them, to be quite honest with you. I know the Hobbs Strauss firm to be the highest quality, as you've indicated. And in fact, I believe we used them at the Cherokee Nation when we were first starting the self-governance project. So there's probably nobody in the country that has more experience in performance than Hobbs Strauss. So I certainly concur with your review, the concept and such. The only thing that I might suggest is that going from a contract basis to a self-governance basis, it really draws it within this, I think, the scope of having the Nasharo Council to review it, because it does modify or change the government-to-government relationship. And so that somewhat falls within the treaty kind of concepts that were entrusted to the Nasharo Council. I'm sure that they will be overjoyed to approve it also, but just as a matter of process, I suggest it be sent to them for review.
I thank you for that comment, Attorney General, and just Carol, just for your edification, during the White Shirt administration, the Attorney General was requested to provide a legal opinion about the powers of the Nasharo Council under our Constitution. And he did a very well thought out Attorney General opinion that addressed the scope and nature of the review powers of our chiefs and the Nasharo Council under the Constitution. And as a result of that, they do have a review. They're required by the Constitution to review acts of this body that pertain to our treaties and enrollment and a few other matters. And so as a result of that legal opinion and to conform a standard operating procedure of complying with our Constitution as outlined in that Attorney General opinion, legal opinion. We have been toying with, I guess more than toying with, but are in the process of adding an additional step in our decision-making process that would present matters that require their approval to the Nashero Council, giving them their opportunity to approve or deny. And in that regard, to add an additional standardized, be it resolved clause or in our standard resolutions that would basically say this resolution under the Constitution requires Nashero Council review, and then it has a signature line for our head chief, in this case, Pat Leading Fox, to review that with the Nashero Council and then sign on the approval line with the date on it. And so we're in the process of adding that standardized next step provision to all of our resolutions. Not all of them, just a small minority will require it, but we want to be, if a particular resolution does not require it, it will say it does not require council review, and that's it. We go forward with making the final decision. If it does, then there'll be a signature line for their approval on it.
Mr.
And
President, I want
yes.
to clarify the uniqueness about this one is it's a self-governance, government-to-government relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the other grants we do, 477, other kind of grants and such, are basically grants to and from the federal government, which would not require the Charlotte review. But in this instance,
Yes.
the self-governance, the government-to-government relationship that's referenced is what brings it within the scope of the council.
That's right, because our treaties laid out that the Pawnee Nation came into the Union under the protection of the United States government. And that means that we have this nation-to-nation relationship with the United States government. And so really the only question for the chiefs is whether this a particular action, this approval action, would impair that relationship or advance it. And this is a self-governance. It's totally consistent with our treaties. And so I'm sure that this Nashero Council, which I think is a very strong council, deeply concerned about our nation and our members, they're going to approve it. I just wanted to say that for Carol's edification, because this is sort of a new step for us to incorporate that in our resolutions. And it's not anything to be concerned about, but it's just simply complying with the Constitution, which we're bound to do anyway. I would suggest, based on that this resolution be possibly a motion to approve, subject to approval by the Nashero Council in compliance with our Constitution. And I know that the Governing Documents Committee, we're trying to work out some language, PAT standard language that we can use in all of our resolutions. We don't have that in place yet, so we'll just have to basically say, maybe add a therefore be it resolved clause, or possibly that this would go into effect, this decision will go in effect upon approval by the Nashero Council as required in the Pawnee Nation Constitution. Sammy, I see your hand is up.
Yes, thanks. Could we just table it?
I would rather approve it subject to that approval, because if we table it, we have to
Bring it back.
bring it back anyway. So let's just, my thought would be, let's do it now, subject to Cheryl Council approval. And that way, I think it'll expedite the process. I think Carol is hoping that we can get this done and not drag it out unduly, you know, but there is that next step that I think we have to do here. I agree with Attorney General on that. Carol, do you have, to what extent is this time sensitive? Should we table it and come back, or do you want us? What's your thought on that, Carol? You're our consultant, and I'd like your input on it. You're on mute.
Thank you for the opportunity to comment, and 2 lines of thought. First of all, I have full respect for the Nasharo Council, and I'm glad that you're looking at that extra review by them. And I've always been proud of the Pawnee Constitution, because I feel like back in the day when they were just boilerplating these constitutions and sending them out to tribes to sign on the dotted line, Pawnees didn't do that. We added that Nasharo Council because we had the high respect and the role that our chiefs played back in the day. So I've always been thankful for that. The Pawnees stood up, I think, at that time. We don't have a general council. We got the de facto council, and I think that's good. Pawnees are still standing up today, and by taking this step forward in self-governance, you're standing up again. I just hope that when you do your resolution or when you put these things in place, that it won't add another layer of bureaucracy, so to speak. Just be careful of that, because that's what we're trying to get away from in self-governance. But of course, if we add our own layers internally, that's our option to do because of our tribal, our nation-to-nation relationship with the federal government. We are our own nation. We can do what we want. I am anxious to get this done. Very anxious. We want to move on to negotiations and get that sign on the dotted line so we can move ahead. I don't, in my personal opinion, feel like this is related to any treaties. But I certainly put that back to the council decision. So and I hope you won't table it. I hope that you'll go ahead and pass it, subject to your additional internal review by the Nasharo Council, should you decide to do that. So if you're leaning that direction, I agree with you, President Ecclehawk. It should be tabled, please. And I mean, if you decide to go with the review of the Nasharo Council, then please go ahead and pass it, and then come back and we can just sign off on it after you get there, okay, so to speak. So there's not another layer of whatever we have to go through.
There's another process within IHS for negotiations. They're going to have time to review the documents, get back to us. We're going to have to see if they have any changes, and we'll be going back and forth. And we have a potential start date of January 1. So there's a lot of other tribes that are negotiating as well. So we'll have to get on their schedule, and we want to make sure that we go live January 1. So keep that in mind too, please, Council.
Good point. Did you hear those comments?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Angela. I think if we went forward today and passed this resolution, subject to the Nasharo Council review, that simply means I can't sign these documents until we get an approval from the Nasharo Council. But we don't have to bring this up a second time and replow the field, you know, that it would be that savings. And so I appreciate Sammy's suggestion, but I think I'm inclined to just do it that way, as I mentioned. I see two hands up. I don't know who was first here. I think Vice President and then Attorney General. So I'll recognize the Vice President.
Oh, I believe Attorney General had his up first. So I'll let him go.
Oh, okay, thank you, Vice President. Attorney General, floor is yours, sir.
Yes, sir. I concur that the council should proceed today with approving the resolution. I have sent over, and I can send over again, suggested language to add to the Nasharo review. I can read it in the record or just send it to you. But the other thing that should give Ms. Nuttall some comfort is that it's a default review. If they don't approve it within 30 days, it's automatically approved. And so there's not a delay, inordinate delay in their review powers. It's sort of a default review. Unless they deny it in 30 days, it's deemed approved. So I can send you this language or I can read it into the record, but I strongly suggest that the council approve it today.
If you could, Chad, if you could do both, if you could read that language into the record today and then send that language to both myself, Cynthia, and George and Jamie, I think that would be a good thing. That way we could take care of what, that part of this resolution that would be added.
Yeah, I would invite the amendment to the resolution to read as follows in the whereas section. Whereas the Constitution of the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma, Article 8, provides review by the Nasharo Council to approve of certain acts of the Pawnee Business Council, that such acts shall be valid unless formally disapproved by the Nasharo Council within 30 days after such acts are referred to the Nasharo Council, and that this legislative enactment does require review and should be forwarded to the Nasharo Council for review. And under the resolution section, add this. Now, therefore, the Pawnee Council hereby approves this resolution and moves this resolution to the Nasharo Council for review. And then add at the tail end of it, further on the such day of August 2021, the Nasharo Council received the legislative act or resolution above, and after review takes the following action on the blank day of August 2021. And then below that it says approves of the legislative action signature by the Nasharo Council or disapproves of the legislative action signature of the Nasharo Council. So it's a very simple process. It's approved subject. I encourage the president to sign it, and it's sent to the Nasharo Council subject to their disapproval. And I would imagine, since this is so important, the Nasharo Council will address it immediately, and it certainly will be disposed of before the 30-day default process.
Thank you for that, Attorney General. And Head Chief Pat Leading Fox has been attending our council meetings. I'm wondering if he's on the line with us today. Jamie, is Pat here?
No, sir.
Okay. I was just going to ask when their next meeting was, but so if we entertained a motion with that addition to it, amendment to it, I would go ahead and it passed, and steps would be I would come into the office and sign it when it's ready to be signed. We would forward it over to the Nasharo Council and and probably I would I and or George, who attends all of their meetings, would present on it when it comes before the Nasharo Council. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it is an extra step. It will take a little bit longer, but I have no doubt in my mind that they will approve. So, and in the meantime, pending that, I can't sign the. I couldn't sign these two, the compact or the funding agreement until that's pending. But
President,
yes.
If I may, and this is an entirely unrelated subject, but I just want to make sure that this question, this is responded to. Brian had said something earlier administratively, or you had asked the question, will it add any additional administrative duties to your financial staff. I would just wanted to clarify that it will actually add less steps, because
Okay.
the only report that's required is an annual audit. You don't have to do your financials all the time. The thing is, that comes additional responsibility within the tribe to make sure that they still report to the council, because the council now becomes the steps into the shoes of the federal government. So I know that's unrelated, and I appreciate you explaining the process for the DeSado Council. And with that, I'll conclude my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. I appreciate that, Carol. Vice President, your hand is up. The floor is yours, and then we'll go to Secretary Gardapi.
Okay, thank you very much, President Echohawk. As we were discussing this approval process for the Nasharo Council, I had Constitution. I was kind of just going through it because there's another resolution that's coming up that I'll have a comment on as well. But anyways, to me, I don't read in the Constitution any approval. It's just they shall review any acts of the Business Council. To me, I interpret that, and I'm open to anyone to correcting me, but I interpret that as we can pass this and your signature can be on this, the way I see it. And then the Nasharo Council has 30 days to review. And if in their reviewing, if they disapprove, that's what I've read, was disapprove the act, then at that point it would come back to us. That's my view of what I see in the Constitution. I didn't see anything as far as them approving anything. It's just they have the power to review these certain acts, membership, anything with treaties between our Pawnee Nation and the U.S. government. And it's up to them, as A.G. Smith had mentioned, if they don't act on anything, then by default, then it's it stands how it is. So really, in the way that I look at this, it seems to me that we can go ahead and vote on this, and if it's approved today, then it's based off of here, such acts of the Pawnee Business Council shall be valid unless formally disapproved by the Nasharo Council. So at that point, if they disapprove of what we've done today, then at that point, to me, I would see it coming back to us. But that's just what I see in that. I am definitely looking forward to more self-governance within our Pawnee Nation, and so I do want to see more opportunities like this move forward for our Pawnee Nation. It's just better for us. It's going to be a lot better down the road for us economically as well. And so to me, I just wanted to clarify on that, and hopefully, like I said, I'm open to anyone correcting me on that. But that's just the way I see it and how it's read in the Constitution.
Thank you for that, Vice President. And with that, I'll go to Secretary Gardapi and then to Carol.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let you guys know that, well, I agree with being the self-governance portion that Jordan was talking about. If we can take the reins on more things like this, then I'm all for it. The next Nasharo Council meeting is next Saturday, August 14th, and I have no problems presenting this to them.
Well, that's nice to know. Thank you for that information, and thank you for your support as we march towards the self-governance here. That promotes the Indian self-government policy, and it promotes our inherent tribal sovereignty. And I'm glad that I think the stars are aligned here, because the Nasharo Council's meeting next week. So I think this could be taken care of in fairly short order. Carol, Secretary Chapman, floor is yours.
Yes, I would like to say that I agree with what Jordan just now stated, that there is nowhere in the Constitution that it states that at this moment. And I think to follow our procedure, I'm all for whatever everybody votes for, but I think that this is an urgent piece of legislation that we are doing, and that we cannot chance losing it right now. And I would be in favor of going ahead and having our right to go ahead and approve it as the Pawnee Business Council, because this Nasharo concern has not been put in place yet. And wouldn't we put that language for any such legal business that we're doing in the hands of governing documents first, and put the language in there before we move forward with instituting this and going forward with it? Because future councils are going to have to go by the governing documents.
Thank you for that question, Carol. I would like to see something emanate from the Governing Documents Committee as we go forward on this issue, but I don't see any problem in doing it on an ad hoc basis now, based on the language that the Attorney General offered here to amend this particular resolution. But it does raise, to my mind, the need for governing documents to take this language that the Attorney General has pro-offered here for this resolution, and to utilize it as a starting place, for coming back to the council from the Governing Documents Committee with some final language that we could standardize and use going forward. It would be my thought, but I don't want to delay this. I want to try to get it done today if we can. I don't want to replow the field on this, and I don't want to delay this for all of the reasons that have been previously stated, if we can avoid it. Councilwoman Butler, recognize you at this time as chair of the governing documents, and then we'll go to Dr. Evans, as it should be.
We have this on our as an agenda item for our tomorrow meeting. The Governing Documents Committee has been reviewing this language, and we're going to make some suggested changes to that. I think that we can pass this today, and I don't see it even having to go back to have an issue, because it's nothing's in place at this moment. So, why should we have to go back and get their approval when we've already approved it? And that's just my opinion. Until some type of provision is put in place, and then forward we go and we move forward with including them into our resolutions.
Well, that would just be a standard that we would set for ourselves, but the Attorney General's opinion has been in effect or in place, since the White Shirt administration. We just have not acted to implement it yet. We've talked about it, and we've developed language, but we're in the process of developing it. This would probably be the first time we've actually utilized it, however. And so if you want to not use it today, I guess we could do that. But according to the Constitution, this is the kind of act of the council that requires their review. And so
I also have I also have a little bit of concern in allowing, someone else to, and I brought this up in governing documents a couple of weeks ago. We're putting a line that says approve or deny. And if the council wants to do this, like maybe even the, what is the next thing on the agenda, the health facility, whenever we're going to pass that appropriation, what if they are not in agreement with us doing that resolution and approving that health facility, and they deny it? So then what do we do as a council? Do we deny it, or is it denied because of that? Does it give them veto powers to do that to some of the business actions that we take? To me, it would be, and this is just my opinion, guys, because I've been thinking about this for a while since it's brought to our table, that if we give them that power and that right, then what next steps do we do? Do we need to have another process for approving resolutions and approving business from the Business Council? Because that's what we're interested with. They're interested with treaty duties. And to me, enrollment resolutions would include that. The Table Creek Treaty would include that with their signatures on it. And it's just, I don't know. I have some concerns. So, but I think that since it's not in place at this moment, that we can pass this resolution and then move forward once we put something in place. Yes, I know that the Attorney General's opinion's been on the table for a while, but we still haven't done anything with it. We don't even have a pinned down language for it. We don't even have a pinned down approval process. So that's just my thoughts on that today.
I think that if the chiefs under the Constitution do not or disapprove an action by this body, our only recourse is to, I think, under the Constitution would be to call for some sort of a general election. I'd have to go back and look. Very high bar to overturn that. If we don't like it, our recourse is to change the Constitution and strip away that power of the Chiefs Council. But as we have to follow the law as it currently exists, and like it or not, that those review powers are in there. And that's just what we're saddled with. And so we have to, as a council, we have to follow tribal law. Dr. Evans, and then I'll go back to the Vice President. And of course, the voting members can determine whatever you want to do with this, whether you want to comply with the Constitution now or comply with the Constitution later, but comply we must. Comply we must. So I'll go to Dr. Evans, Vice President, and then back to the Attorney General.
Thank you, President Echohawk. I think this is just such a hugely important issue, and it's an existential thing. It changes really the nature of what we are and allows us the opportunity to really gain independence and to be so much more than we have been, than where we're stuck at now. And there's no risk to this at this point. This is just saying we have opportunity to make some of our own decisions. Being that I think it is so important, I think it's just too important. The process has to start somewhere. And I think if we don't move on this, then our process, nothing else starts moving. So I surely want to see us move today on this. I also I think it's too important for us to. I think we just have to do things as perfectly as we can with as much unity as we can. And I really believe in our chiefs. I think they understand the nature of what this can do for us as a people. But I think we do need to go ahead, and run. Let them be part of that process, but we get this vote done today.
Thank you for your remarks, and I appreciate being reminded of this is a big step in the right direction, and possibly it's something for the chiefs to be involved in. I think I connect those dots, and we can certainly, I think, comfortably do that on an ad hoc basis if we want to get this done sooner rather than later. Vice President, recognize you, and then I believe Attorney General, and then I see Carol's hand is up. We'll go in that order.
All right, thank you, President Echohawk. I will say I appreciate this lively discussion and debate on this issue. It's something that needs to happen. I am appreciative that this council is very aware of our Nasharo Council too. That's very refreshing. Our tribe is one of the unique tribes that still recognize our tribal leadership with our traditional way as well with our Nasharo Council. So that to me is also something good. Again, to me, the way I see it is that, and this is why I was glad and it was encouraging to me to see our head chief, Pat Leading Fox, attend our meetings, is because that makes him aware of what's going on. Obviously, we've moved back to virtual, so that limits, I guess, in some ways, people being able to join. But nonetheless, I think we need to keep in mind that we need to have confidence in our Nasharo Council to be aware of what we're doing. I think tend to lean on Councilwoman Butler's comment about everything that we do. We don't want to put too much, I guess, in sense, red tape on what we're trying to do, and put a lot of barriers with us of having to have an approval or non-approval, those kind of things. And again, the language I read in the Constitution, it's just a review that they can do, set by the acts that we do as a council. And it to me, I think if we try to put some kind of language of approval or anything of that nature, to me, I don't think that that's what the Constitution is really saying in the context that I read it. To me, it's they're aware of this resolution that we've passed, so they have the right within the Constitution to review that. And in that review, if they deem it something that goes against what they believe is good for the Pawnee Nation, then they have the right to disapprove this. I don't think it has anything that bars us from making a decision today. And I'll even go further and say I don't think it has anything to do with has anything to bar you, President, from signing this as well. I think what it is it goes to the extent of once they're aware of this, and as Secretary Gardepy had mentioned, he will present this at the meeting next Saturday, and it'll be an agenda. At that point, they can review it and they can discuss it, and if they deem it something that doesn't have an effect on our treaties and they're fine with it, they can do no action on this and it can just continue to move forward. But I think in some sense, when you begin to overlap a lot of governmental issues, we have our Nasharo Council, we have our Pawnee Business Council, we have the courts that is recognized in our Constitution as well. If we begin to start to overlay a lot of these things within our processes in the way that we govern ourselves, there may be a council after us that may say, well, the Constitution says this about the court, so now I'm just thinking out loud a lot of this really, but I think it's good that we have our separate bodies there, the courts, Nasharo, and the Business Council, so that we can act on what we want, what we feel that we need to act on. And then the Constitution lays out what the responsibilities are for the Nasharo Council, and it can go from there. But to me, I that's the way that I feel. That's the way that I see it as well. And at that, I just again, I like this lively discussion we're having with this as well. It's a needed discussion, I think, too, just to kind of again bring this to our attention. But that's it.
President,
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to jump in for a second. Sorry to jump up before the AG.
Okay.
But we do have 2 Nasharo Council members on our governing documents committee, and that was part of the discussion. So that's why we're bringing it back up to discuss with them. And they bring very good insight on all of this. And so we'll be working with them to see kind of what their needs are and what they want to see. So like I said, we have 2 members from the Nasharo Council on our board.
Yeah, you're right. That's right. That's true. Yes, I mean, this is a new procedure for us. We know it's in the Constitution. We know we have to comply with it, and it's really up to us to try to implement it in the most efficient way that we can. And the fact that it's brand new, we're going to have to give it some quality time thought. I'm depending on both the Attorney General and the Governing Documents Committee to come up with something that is standardized and efficient. And I think the point mentioned earlier, like some tribal councils are saddled with a general council that reviews and makes a lot of their decisions. And that's a very inefficient way of self-governance, the rule from the gymnasium floor by folks that are by and large not trained in governance. And so if we think we got problems having to comply with our Constitution with regard to Nasharo Council review, those are just minor inconveniences compared to nations like the Comanches, that are subject to the General Council, because it's really a free-for-all kind of a governance once an issue hits the gymnasium floor. Attorney General, I'll recognize you at this time, and then we'll go to Carol.
I concur with the Vice President's comments about process completely. I think the concern of that this may affect other resolutions on today's agenda in future generations is that, for example, the resolution coming up for pledging federal funds for a bridge loan. Well, that doesn't alter the government-to-government relationship, so none of that would be subject to Nasharo Review Council. The only trigger here is when we talk about the government-to-government relationship, and that's what's unique about a compact. And so all the other program things that come in front of the council would never be subject to Nasharo review. And that was one of the things that Mr. President, you and I had discussed a year and a half ago as to where that line is between general review of operations and the oversight of the government-to-government relationship. So I think this is a rare situation in the general operations that you would have a charter review, but it's a very limited one, and it's just because it's self-governance.
Well, I thank you for those remarks, Attorney General, and I would also say that we may need I think it's a no-brainer to ask for your help in working with the Governing Documents Committee to help us develop a checklist for our lay staff in the executive office that we could refer to of items that do require the Nasharo Council review. Does this issue address the relationship between the governance between the two, Pawnee Nation and the United States? Does it alter that relationship? Does it affect any treaty? Does it affect, et cetera? That a layperson can look at a one-page checklist of issues that would require review under your opinion, Attorney General opinion. That way, when we prepare, when Secretary Gardapi and Jamie prepare these resolutions, they can refer to it and determining probably in advance whether a particular resolution is going to require that rare kind of a review or not. So I'm hoping to get a really good working checklist of issues that could be consulted by our lay council members and our lay staff to make that judgment call. And I don't, and I need to have a checklist too, because even though I'm an attorney, I don't have the time to go out and research these complex issues, but I'd rather have a quick checklist of issues to look at and compare it to this resolution and say thumbs up or thumbs down, it requires review or not. If it requires review, we can put it in that language similar to what you said and go from there. That would be a one way to streamline this process and really not have any missteps. Oh, we made a boo-boo here. We should have got review and we didn't, because that would call into question the legality of that action. It could be challenged by someone in tribal court. Back to the Attorney General and then over to Carol, the long, patient treasurer. Follow after the chat. You're on mute.
I was finishing. Yes, sir.
Oh, are you done? Were
Yes.
you done, Attorney General? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Your hand went down. Okay, Carol, the floor is yours. And thank you for your patience.
I was trying to get my hand down. Okay, first of all, I would like to say I have the utmost respect for our Nasharo Council. I mean, my family members, long line of Nasharo chiefs. My grandpa Henry was one of the first chiefs of the Nasharos. Back when the Business Council was created, he was on both of them at the same time. And I've grown up with countless politicians in my family, the Chapmans. And I would like to say, I think that Jordan and Cynthia and Dr. Evans, all of you made really good statements, really good discussion. I particularly liked Cynthia's comments and Jordan's comments about the Constitution. I think that this is an issue that could become very controversial. I think that the council should probably discuss it at length together as a group before we go forward with any other decisions on it. That's my recommendation, my thoughts. So with that being said, at this point, because this self-governance item is so crucial at this time and time sensitive, I would like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve, as we are required to do as the Pawnee Business Council, these resolutions today so that they can go forward and take this other issue and review it as a council together as we go forward, because we do everything in unison. That is one thing that I have really enjoyed about this council, is that we do things in complete unison when we go forward. And I would like to see that done with this so that we get all of our input from everybody. So that's my comments.
I'll second.
Okay, so we're going to go forward without the Nashero Council approval on this particular resolution. Is that the wishes of the of this motion?
Yes, today.
I see her. I see
Yes,
her
today.
Shaking her head. Okay.
Am I not on?
Yeah, you are on, and
Okay,
I did see your head go up and down,
Okay,
which I think means yes.
I'm using sign language. I have to use sign language with this technology. I'm not skilled as Jordan and Cynthia.
Okay, council, then. So we have a motion on the floor and we have a second. And the motion would essentially disregard the advice of the Attorney General on this particular matter, and suggest that we deal with the Nashero Council review issue separately, and presumably that would mean it would be bounced over to the Governing Documents Committee to work with the Attorney General to come up with some sort of a checklist and language and an efficient process that we can institute. And I think the sooner that is done, the better off it's going to be for this body, because we're in the business of making decisions and we need to incorporate that into our decision-making process. And so we have this motion on the floor. I see Dr. Evans' hand is up, and I recognize you, sir.
Yes, sir. I agree. I think if we can go ahead and get this voted on, get it accepted by us, even if we don't have the language written on here about Nashero review, does that not mean that that we can't let them review it? I still think the right idea is we do our job, we make our decision, and and then this next weekend it goes to them. They can review. We'll work on our language later if they unimaginably, but if they disagree, they can let us know and we'll act on that. Does that sound really reasonable?
I think it sounds reasonable. It's not ironclad legal, but it's reasonable. And I think I like your thought here that Secretary Gardapi would still present this out of courtesy and out of constitutional compliance to the Nashero Council. Get it on their agenda, if you would, kind sir, and let them know what has taken place, and in the same breath, let them know that we're working with all deliberate speed here to incorporate standard language in our checklist, and they'll be able to review both the language and the checklist as well before we institute that into our standard operating procedure here. I see Councilwoman Hare's hand is up. And you're on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I just want to make sure that, the direction we're going, approving today, we're in compliance with our Constitution. And so I don't want it to, us to feel like we're out of compliance. George is going to present. They have 30 days to review or disapprove, and that's what the Constitution says, disapprove. It doesn't have any approval in it. So I would say go for it.
Thanks for your clarifications there, Councilwoman. Okay, any other comment on this pending motion? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, would you please call for the vote?
Jordan Canuho,
Yes.
George Gardapi, yes. Carol Chapman,
Yes.
Cynthia Butler,
Yes.
Donna Hare,
Aho, yes.
Gene Evans,
Yes.
Sammy Kimball,
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Motion carries. Resolution 2149 has been approved. I just have one point of clarification on that action, and congratulations, I would say, to Carol. Now, what do I do on Monday morning here? Do I sign these underlying legal documents to implement this, or do I wait till Saturday for in the Sheriff Council's, I don't know what you call it, review and disapproval power?
Go ahead. We just voted on it.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say just, yeah, it would be signed.
Okay. Well, thank you for that guidance. Jamie, when these, probably in my next office hours, which is Tuesday, I will execute these documents and we'll move from there, Carol. I see your hand is up, Carol, and
Yes,
this is
sir.
Carol Nuttall.
Yes, sir.
Two Carols. We got two Carols on the line, and
That's a
you're
good
side by
name, that
side.
one.
It's
That's
a
a
real
good
good
name.
name. Yes.
Okay, well, I just want to say congratulations and good old hey. It is so wonderful to see a council working together and expressing their individual opinions and see these minds working and y'all working together. I'm very thrilled about that, and I feel like the Pawnee Nation is in good hands. Good hands. Good old hey. But let me tell you next steps. Next steps then, after we will prepare a letter to go forward to the Indian Health Service for President Echohawk's signature. And at that time, we will forward the compact and the funding agreement to the Indian Health Service. And then we will be looking for a negotiation date that is conducive to both sides. We would then at some point like to get with Brian perhaps and set a date for the phase 2 planning, because at that point we don't want to, this is a giant step. I'm so thrilled that the Pawnees are going to get in this self-governance arena, and congratulations, you are going to love it. Thank you, Council. But we will look at phase 2 now. We're not going to let any grass grow under our feet. Let's look at phase 2. We'll present the rest of the information that we have from the Indian Health Service. We'll look at options for moving forward, and then we'll go from there as you so determine. And that's all I have to say. God bless you. Peace be with you and your families. Stay safe. Thank you, President Echohawk, for getting the message out, the public message on the COVID crisis, and hopefully our people will stay bound to that and take it seriously. I pray for safety. That's all I have. Just stay hooked.
Yes. Thank you for those encouraging and inspiring words, Carol, and we appreciate your remarks. I just want to just briefly say before we move forward here, all of the other tribes who have assumed Title V medical programs have been successful.
Yes.
across the state. They've made a financial go of it. They've added grant money to their share of the IHS money and the third-party billings, and put together other grants and other proposals to be quite successful. And certainly the door now is opening for us, and under, I think, the leadership of Dr. Evans and our medical committee, we have a whole new vista to begin thinking about what kind of infrastructure we need to do for moving to phase 2 on this, and looking at business plan and just a whole shooting match. And I think we are in good hands with Leader LLC here and our attorneys that we do have to really move forward, you know. So this is a historic action, and I too want to join and note, you know, the historic juncture that we've come to. So thank you, Carol, for your fine work, and Angela and the law firm Hobbs and Strauss for you, and also all of our fine staff that have brought us to this point. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Carol, I see your hand is up. And you're on mute.
Oh, okay. I'm the other Carol, I guess. So we're the same age. So our families, there must have been somebody, movie star, really popular, named Carol. They're all our age, the Carol Ann's of the world. But I would like to also mention that the contracting with IHS is just the beginning. Once we're successful with that, with self-governance, we can enter compacts with many, many other federal agencies, just tripling our ability to bring in more funding and run our own business. So I would like to say I'm very excited that the council is going this way, because the other self-governance tribes are very successful because of their compacting. Thanks.
Excellent. Good words to end this discussion, and thank you for that. So we're on a journey, folks, into the field of medicine here, and that's good. Tudahe. All right. If we can move on at this point, our next item is Resolution 2150, TDC Business Recovery Litigation. And we do have our Attorney General here to present on that this resolution. Just recall, Council, that during the 2020 pandemic, our casinos took a really bad hit. They lost a lot of money, lost a lot of revenue due to the pandemic. They were insured for those kinds of business losses. They filed a claim to their insurance companies. That claim was denied, and we had a 1-year period in which to legally challenge that decision of the insurance companies. And so through the help and leadership of our Attorney General and Clint Cohen, the TDC attorney, together with Scott Pointer, we were able to put a protective litigation just at the last day of that 1-year limitations period. We filed a protective action. I believe our Attorney General was on those papers, you know, with the district court uptown. And we had reviewed and authorized that protective action. And this resolution that we have today would ratify, confirm, and authorize that litigation against the insurance companies. I believe that the council is a party, and that as the sole owner of the TDC, I think the TDC may well be a party in that lawsuit as well. We're gonna take the insurance companies to task and see if we can't recover that amount for the good of the nation. and recover some of those revenue losses for the nation. And so this resolution would also authorize your president, me, yours truly, to retain the law firms of the Pointer Law Group, which we're all very familiar with as our longtime attorneys in the earthquake damage litigation lawsuits that we have been pursuing, to represent us in this case, along with Whitten Bergers on a contingency fee basis to represent the nation and its TDC in this lawsuit. And that our Attorney General has negotiated what we consider to be a sound retainer agreement. I think it's scrubbed and ready for my signature. And so with that overview, I would like to, if I may, turn the floor over to our Attorney General to present on this motion. Attorney General, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. You gave your synopsis was precise. I just invite any questions. The litigation is complicated. If you actually look at the petition, many of these insurance companies create syndicates, and there may be as many as 16 defendants in this case. Sean Burge, I don't know if you remember him, but he's a Chickasaw. He was a former federal judge in Muskogee. He's in his own firm. He's one of the probably top 10 firms in the state. And so what they did is that they had contracts similar to our insurance contract, and they litigated the denial by the insurance company, the claims of the Cherokees, Chickasaws, and Choctaws. They won those claims on motions of summary judgment in various state courts. Those three cases on our appeal to the Oklahoma Supreme Court. And so if they win in those cases, then we win in our case. And that's why we have a staggered contingency. At the first tier, we just wait till the state Supreme Court rules. If they rule in these three other cases and those tribes prevail, then that principle of law applies to us because we believe we have the same insurance contract. And so they would take a percentage of what they recover before they have to start in-depth litigation. And so we don't know how much is actually on the table. TDC has developed a list of lost business revenue, and it can range, from anything to a lot. There's also other complications because with the federal funding, there were some funds recovered for lost business revenue. So it's a interactive kind of formula. And so we have confidence in Sean Burge's firm because they've plowed this ground at least 3 times. They're in the best position to actually bring us to effect if possible. The resolution is retain the Bird firm and Scott Pointer as part of that team. And nothing's going to happen for a while until the Supreme Court makes a decision in these companion cases. And also they bear all the costs. There's no money out of pocket. If they win for us, then they get their costs and their attorney fees.
You're on mute, President.
Thank you. I am on mute. I would just like to add briefly to what Attorney General just said, because in my view, we are stewards of the nation and our revenues. And I think in our capacity as stewards, we would actually be remiss if we did not bring a lawsuit of this nature in an attempt to recover some of those lost revenues. Recall in 2020, we set aside about $800,000 for the TDC to help bail them out over this matter. Lost revenues, to keep them afloat, to keep them in compliance with their loan covenants. I'd like to get some of that money back into our coffers if we're able through this litigation. And it sounds to me that we've got very good attorneys. There's two kinds of attorneys in my books. You know, there's very good attorneys, and then there's borderline attorneys. And I don't want to make a move anywhere without a very good attorneys. And so this continues our tradition and our policy here to field very good attorneys. And we do have them here lined up in the Pointer Law Firm and this Mr. Burridge that Attorney General mentioned. So with that, Council, do you have any questions of our Attorney General on this motion or this resolution, please? Hearing none, may I ask for a vote? A motion to approve, please? Oh, I see two hands are up. They both went up at the same time. What do I do? Who's our parliamentarian? I'm going to go with Carol first in this instance, if I may, Vice President.
Yep, that's fine.
Age first. I would just like to say that that was a good presentation by Chad, and I totally agree. He really knows these law firms really well. They are very outstanding. This is a good move, and I would like, unless Jordan has something else, I was going to make a motion to go ahead and approve the resolution, or he can make it, or I don't know. But that was my comment, that I think this is a good. His comments were good.
Okay. So are you making a motion at this time?
To approve it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to, before I call for a second, I'd like to hear from the Vice President, if I may, yes. And then we'll go to a call for a second. Vice President.
Yeah, thank you very much, President Cock. I did have a question on the fifth whereas, where we're discussing the Constitution again. Basically, the discussion we had in the last resolution about the Nashara Council. It lays out the reviewing again, but then at the end, and this it says, and that this legislative enactment does not require review. So is that whereas necessary? I guess in my view is, I don't know why we included that in there.
That's a good point.
That is a good point, because if we predetermine that a resolution does not require review, it is kind of like superfluous. So that's a good point. Vice President, you might ought to consider going to law school here. He's asking these very intelligent questions, but it may be that he's got a point here, Attorney General. I don't know.
Actually, on June 27th, I prepared a checklist for review of actions if they needed review of the Nashara Council or not. And so I laid out the law and I provided sample resolutions. If a legislation required review, or if it didn't, if a resolution required review by the Nashara Council or not. So when I prepared this one, I used that format. The theory and the thinking is that we've determined that it's not within the scope of the Nashara Council review, so that we're trying to acknowledge obedience to the Constitution, that we don't believe, or the PBC doesn't believe this is subject to the Nashara review. In other resolutions or law, we do believe it's subject to review, and you add the additional language. So that was just basically in conformance with the checklist that I had prepared in my concern about the Constitution. And you're right, the other option of doing this is just send everything the council passes over to the Nashara Council, let them figure it out. I don't know if that they necessarily want to be in the position to second guess a council and what's subject to their review or not, but that's an option. Is everything you look at, send it over and let them sort it out.
Well, that is a rational answer that to that, Vice President, that it's basically, it may not be absolutely necessary to do this, but it's a nod to and an acknowledgement of the chief's power under the Constitution. And even though it determines that that review is not warranted. So it could probably either go or stay. It's just, and it would be possibly standard language that we would consider using in all of our resolutions, even if they're not applicable to their review power, to acknowledge that that power exists. We've made a conscious decision to review it ourselves and make a determination that a power does not apply here. So
yeah, no, I agree with. I was gonna say I agree with that. You know, I mean, it's almost as if the first whereas of the resolutions that we have, that pretty much is a standard whereas that we have within our resolutions about the Pawnee Business Council as the supreme governing body of the Pawnee Nation. It's authorized to conduct business on behalf of Pawnee Nation in accordance to Articles 4, Section 1 and 2. You know, that's just the typical language of our resolutions that's always included. So, I mean, to your point, I mean, that could be something we can look at down the road, is this just being a portion of language that we can look at, which could be something, again, that governing docs can look at as well as a matter. That was just something that stuck out at me. I like you said, to me, it doesn't really take it out, leave it in, doesn't really have an effect on the core issue of the resolution itself.
President?
yes.
I'll go ahead and I want to amend my motion to state pretty much what I stated on the former resolutions. Again, we've come to the same question of governing documents. So if we could go ahead and pass it today and then separately, and then we will deal with the issue of the word verbiage with the governing documents. So I would like to make that kind of motion.
So would that mean, Carol, just for point of clarification, that we would strike this whereas clause and enact it
for today?
For today,
until we get it clarified and fixed with governing documents.
Okay. And again, it just, the motion as now currently amended by the movement, it just underscores the need for governing documents to come out with, in consultation with the Attorney General and the chiefs that are on the committee. And I'm really grateful we do have two of them there. Come give us our language that we can start using, you know. So do we have a second to this motion as amended?
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, do your thing if you would, sir.
Jordan Canuho,
Yes.
George Garter, P, yes. Carol Chapman,
Yes.
Cynthia Butler,
Yes.
Donna Hare,
I'll vote yes.
Gene Evans,
Yes.
Tammy Kimball.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Motion carries, and I want to thank our Attorney General. He acted very swiftly and worked really hard to get this protective litigation filed in fairly short time. And I want to commend you for that, Attorney General, for your fine work in doing that, and your work with the other law firms on this retainer agreement. And I will, I take it I'm authorized. I will be authorized to sign it first thing on Tuesday, and we'll go from there as far as that. But I thank you for your representation of the tribe in this matter, getting us to where we are on this. And we will go forward on this standard language that you had inserted that was taken out um, until we can get something that goes to our governing documents with your further input on that. So thank you for that. Again, once again, we're in very good hands with our Attorney General here on the legal affairs of our nation. So that's that. And I think the next item we have is Resolution 21-15. This is an ARPA allocation for our behavior health facility involving a $1.5 million bridge loan to the, I believe it's the Ascension partners that we have recruited to get our behavior health center built, staffed, everything in place and opened. This $1.5 million bridge loan will leverage ultimately a $22 million facility, fully staffed on a for-profit basis, you know, and really be another giant step of the Pawnee Nation into the medical field on a direly needed part of our rural medical delivery system here, behavior health. When this council had a long discussion at our last session, there was a tragic murder-suicide going on Highway 18 that was related to a mentally disturbed individual. And so we can't act swift enough to move forward on this greatly needed program, which has been increased. The need has increased, I think, for something like this due to the pandemic. And so I want to welcome at this time Mr. Brian Kirk, who has been instrumental and key to bringing us to this point, and ask Brian if you could present on this discussion. We've had a number of these discussions recently with him. I feel that we have come to we have a polished proposal before us, and I'm hoping that we can go forward. And this is another time-sensitive matter. So with that quick overview regarding this bridge loan, it's a ARPA allowable expenditure to greatly needed health part of our medical delivery system. And so I'll turn this over to you, if I may, Brian. Welcome. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. So again, hello, council. You did a great job explaining it. I know last meeting we had a well in-depth presentation to council. I was just following suit from Councilwoman Butler of getting a resolution together and presenting it to council, so I could just have that in place for us. So what I did was I presented this resolution. I did get with Muriel as well as our Attorney General Chad. So we both of them reviewed the resolution, and I made their recommend changes within that resolution. So I didn't know if y'all had any additional questions that I didn't answer last time, but feel free to ask me any questions. Was I on mute the whole time?
What was that, Brian? We didn't hear anything.
Oh, I've been
No,
talking. I guess I've been on mute. I'm sorry. No, I was saying thank you, Council. Thank you, President.
I was just kidding. We heard everything.
Oh, okay. Dang. I didn't know. Okay. Well, let me know if y'all have any questions.
You didn't get no responses, so you just wonder.
I know. I was like, it was a silence. I was like, maybe they didn't hear me.
That's funny. Well, I'll go ahead and go first. I do appreciate the work that's been done getting this together. I know I haven't been completely involved in a lot of the discussions. I've attended as many of the meetings for this as possible, but I know most of the council here has probably been able to attend those meetings, and so they probably have more of a better insight on this bridge loan that we're presenting today, and we may vote on today as well. The first thing I would say is this is a good opportunity for the Pawnee Nation in the sense that it's going to bring jobs to Pawnee Nation, first and foremost, in an economic standpoint. It's going to help the Pawnee Nation diversify its economic footing as well. And then ultimately, it's also going to help address the mental health crisis that we have within our community and the surrounding areas as well. So definitely, I think those are some good positives that's going to come out of this this effort and this work. And so I think that's been really good. With any kind of discussion, you always want to bring out the good stuff before you start talking about the negative stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the negative stuff now. One of the things is that my question for you is this is going to be used from the ARPA funds, is that correct, that we received?
Correct, sir.
Okay. I guess my issue, or I guess you say my concern with that, is that we had communicated that we were going to get a COVID committee put together. We still haven't. It's on the agenda today, obviously. And to me, that would be something of this expense to be able to bring to them so that they're able to discuss it, so they're able to vet it themselves. It's quite a big sum of money to be able to use out of the ARPA funds. I know it's a bridge loan, and we're going to see a return on that eventually. I get that part as well, but just staying to what we were discussing about this COVID committee and their purpose and their use within this whole COVID era that we're in. So to me, that's kind of a red flag and kind of a concern for me. Another concern that I have is the fact that this first round of disbursement, the 65% that we received from the federal government, half of that was dispersed in the first resolution with the ARPA funding that we did, which was to help our citizens in the time of need that they had, which I know a lot of our tribal citizens took advantage of that and used that for needs. Some of them needed rent assistance. They used that money for that. Some of them needed food, gas. Some of them needed medical supplies, and they took care of that. They took care of those needs with that funding. But in essence as well, that also left us with about $9 million and some change probably left to use for different situations that are going on. And this funding is for three and a half years to the end of 2024. So $1 million, $1.5 million is quite a bit to put towards one project. And thinking about how this Delta variant is affecting us today, we're not meeting in person today because out of caution and everything else of this Delta variant. Will this handicap us going down the road if any other services are going to be needed from this ARPA funding as well? That's the other concern I have. And another concern that I have as well is that this addresses a mental health crisis when the facility is fully built and fully operating and functional. But that's 2 years down the road, maybe 3. How long will this be fully operational, Brian, once it's all said and done? Like, how long will that take? 2 years?
Yeah, we're projecting 2023.
Okay, 2023. So, I mean, that's great. We'll have that. But what about today? What are we doing today to address that? I'll touch on a little bit of the forum that we had during our homecoming weekend. I didn't get to attend in person, but I took the time to listen to it afterwards and took some notes on that. And two things that address today's resolution that I think we need to be reminded of. One is we heard tribal members come to us and say they don't want to see any more building projects used with the funds. I'm just expressing what was expressed in the meeting. Some of them said they want to see this going to the people and everything else. So that was one thing that caught my attention. The other thing was this issue with substance abuse that's going on in our community today, and it drove a lot of the discussion toward the end of the conversation in the forum at that forum during the homecoming. And I know this facility will help address that in 2023. But again, coming back to the question is, I mean, are we doing anything now? And can these funds be utilized now to address substance abuse? And we're not just talking alcohol, we're talking, meth is an issue in our community, other substances such as abuse of pain medicine, abuse of other substances that are out there as well. How are we addressing that? And are we going to be using some ARPA funding to address that today as well? And I'll admit for myself first is that I haven't done anything initially to begin to look at that, and that's going to be something on my plate to begin to look at. What can we do as a council to begin addressing that? What kind of policies can we present that we can address that now? So those are just some concerns that I have with it. Again, I like I said, this is a great opportunity for us to address mental illness and mental issues within our community and our tribe and our surrounding areas. And it's going to be great, but at the same time, I have to also raise those concerns that I've had. And so they may not be questions to you, Brian, or they may not be questions to the council, but they're just concerns that I've had. And if you or the council would like to address any of those, that's fine too. I just wanted to just open that discussion up.
Thank you, Vice President, for raising those concerns. On the one hand, I fully agree with your very sage advice to this body that in making any COVID-related or ARP-related spending decision, that this be a very deliberate process. Whereby the council has had an opportunity to review the big picture, what our aspirations are as a nation, and have a lot of ample time to deliberate and prioritize in a very rational way to make the wisest decisions possible. And to follow the established, to do that, we need to establish the existing protocol. And that is, we need to have this COVID committee, which we're going to, I hope, act on today. I hope that we're also going to have possibly a business council retreat once that committee is staffed and briefed, and then we can give ourselves the luxury of at least a one-day retreat to take everybody's temperature and what our interests and priorities are, and then move into this deliberate decision-making prioritization process. And I think that's very important to do. We can't be doing hip-shot decision-making. If anything, that first decision, yes, it was a good decision. It needed to be made soon at the front end, but no, it did not follow a deliberate process, and it was kind of ragged around the edges for that reason. But I hope that in going forward here, that we be good stewards and make the best decisions for the nation that we can. Now, on the other hand, this is not a new project for this council. It's been around for a number of years. We have set aside acres for it in a very deliberate fashion. We have been moving forward on it for some time to meet a long-standing need of the community that's been fully documented and fully prioritized by both prior councils and the community according to our surveys and community meetings. So this is not a new issue, and it's not a hip shot decision. It is very consonant, I think, with the forum in many respects because it directs head on these substance abuse issues that we're facing. Now, in addition, we know we need to do something short term. We're not precluded from doing that with our ARP money, even if this goes forward. But this is, as my understanding, it's a time-sensitive matter because a lot of time and work went into getting this state license, I guess. Brian can elaborate on that. And we need to move forward before that expires. And so we're up against kind of a time-sensitive thing. We've got some of the best people in the country lined up to do work. I don't know that we want to keep them hanging in the wind, or twisting in the wind. We're ready to move. We've got, this is a window of opportunity. There are monies out there during this window of opportunity that Extension wants to pursue. The longer we delay, the shorter our window of opportunity is going to be. And so I think that there is an argument to be made that it is prudent to make this long-standing decision now and allow it to move forward. It does forego our opportunity as a council to look at our big picture. That's true, very, very true. But again, this is not a new matter. It's something that has been looked at and prioritized by councils past. Homework has been done. In my view, it's ready to move forward. And of course, that's a decision by this council if you want to go forward now or delay it so that we can review it along with other priorities, and that's up to you all. But my advice is certainly it's well. Your comments are well taken by me, but and I in part I share them, too. As but again, this is really not a knee-jerk decision. It's something that's been very deliberate over the course of time. And it's come to the point to where we do have, it's now a time-sensitive, well-prepared issue. So that's what I wanted to say. Now, Brian, you might want to respond to these questions as well. It's true we only have about $9 million left in our ARP money. We spent half of it right off the bat, and so everything else is we're probably not going to have enough money to meet all of our priorities. We got some very meritorious proposals among our staff that I think can really advance our nation in the future of our nation in a major way. And they're all going to have to be competing for the priorities set by this body. And certainly this is a very meritorious project too. But anyway, with that, Brian, do you have anything else to add to the Vice President's
I had
concern?
President, I had one more question too, and
Yes.
then I can let Brian answer. And that is, this is a bridge loan. So when would the two parts of this? When would the tribe be made whole with that loan? When does that be expected? And then the second thing is, the second part of that would be and so I know Lacey's looking at this, and so under the ARPA funding, we can use the fund as a loan, per se.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and I think that's the beauty of this, because it all it is a bridge loan, and I think, and Brian can correct me if I'm wrong, it's to be fully repaid, guaranteed to be repaid in 2 years. 1 year. Is it 1 year?
1 year.
1 year.
Okay.
Which is the beauty of this, because then it goes into the general revenue fund, and we can use it again. we can use it again. So that's the great beauty of this bridge loan. And yet it's going to leverage a $22 million behavioral health facility for this nation.
Okay, and I'm glad you were able to answer that. Like I said at the beginning, I haven't been involved in a lot of the discussions, as I know some of you all have in the council and everything. That's what's the beauty of having 8 members in the council, is that not all of us have to attend a lot of these meetings. A lot of you who sat in these meetings more than I have can answer those questions for me. With that, it being a year, that kind of gives me more comfort to know that we'll see this money at the end of 2023, 2022. Sorry. And so to me, I think that gives, well, is that a year after we give the loan, or is that a year after it's fully built and functional? I would assume it's after it's fully functional at that point.
Brian, if you could respond to his question and then also elaborate on anything you care to on his concerns.
And then I'll be quiet.
No, I'm glad that we're having this discussion. I'm more happy to explain the processes, what we've done in the past. Just to kind of backtrack a little bit, yes, like what the president said, we've been working on this project since about the end of 2018. And this was a community-driven project. So we did a lot of town hall meetings, a lot of surveys, we even did focus groups more privately with tribal members and so forth. And, even with the ARP money, we did a survey beginning of this year, and the behavioral health and health facility was #1 on that survey as well. And that was, this year data, as well as what we saw in the form. I know that, some did mention no more buildings, but there was other tribal members, pleading help for substance abuse and mental health. So I think it kind of, it's just, you have to play your cards of which one, you look on a priority list. But that was kind of what we took away from that. And having this as a committee or a community driven, it's like, even we started this in 2018 and being 2021, it's still on the tribal community #1 priority list in that first say. But it will be paid back in a year after disbursement, so it won't be so much operational, but we will be able to utilize this funding supplemental to the 3 million EDA that we have. So this is just something that we can continue moving, because we are on a tight deadline with the certification of need with the state of Oklahoma. This just allows us to have that flexibility and supplement funding that the EDA will not let us use those funds for, because that's going to be our first pool, first and foremost, is utilizing those federal dollars first. But we are in a tight restriction of those funds, so this allows us to have that flexibility so we can meet those deadlines. So I know you had a lot of questions, so I'm trying to remember most of them. But that's kind of like what we did throughout the past, where we're at now. We did get from the previous council meeting, it seemed like it was approved, and I was just trying to follow suit with the correct action. I know we didn't go through the committee, and that wasn't out of disrespect for the committee in any means. I was talking to a lot of council and the COVID division and our consultants like Lacey Horn and others, of talking to the right people, following the right chain, and just, meeting the deadline that we were restricted to, and making sure that we didn't want to have to spend more cost if we needed to. So we were just trying to prevent that. So we were in open communications with all those parties through this process. So I just want to highlight that I wasn't trying to, skip them in any means or anything like that. I just wanted to make sure that with the restricted timeline that we're in, we're able to meet that deadline that we're binded to kind of right now with the state.
So Brian, on that, did they give us a date in 2022 when the funds would be back or be paid back?
I could get that. I did. We're still working on the contract side of things, of how we're going to do the disbursement of payment, and so we haven't finalized that contract yet. We're going to be working on that this week, of like how we're going to do that. Is that going to be a monthly retainer, or is it going to be quarterly based, or is it going to be invoice driven? So I could get that answer to you next week of what exactly that would be, but we're still kind of finalizing that right now.
And
Yeah,
then
I
when
think.
I was going to say, when the funds are paid back, are we going to earmark those to be back to COVID needs, or is that just going to go straight to being tribal dollars at that point?
That's up however council wants to utilize it. I mean, that's up to y'all where y'all want to earmark those funds coming back. So I don't have no say so on that.
Yes, I just want to add, Vice President, that all this resolution does, it does kind of follow up to the last meeting, which you weren't present. And all this resolution does is it authorizes the allocation of the American Rescue Plan Act funds of $1.5 million as this bridge loan. But
you froze up, President.
Remains here is to develop all of the contracting documents. With Chad will be involved in that. Oh, okay. Am I unfrozen now?
You must have had a plane fly over your house or something at that time. No.
Am I unfrozen? Can you see my hands?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, I'm going to exit and then come back. Okay.
Well, as president,
Yeah,
as he gets back up on and everything else. Just one point, and this goes to our communicating as well, is I didn't get to attend the last meeting, and I got to kind of take the seat of our tribal citizens in this one. The meeting wasn't live streamed, and there was no follow-up to the meeting and nothing of that nature. Yeah, I could have reached out to any one of you and asked about these certain things, but at the same time, I got to feel what the tribal citizens feel, which is what's going on. We see what happens on the agenda, but we don't ever get to hear what's going on, what these decisions are. So something to keep in mind. Hopefully this meeting will be posted very shortly after we're done today, and we can get that going with them, because I guarantee you there's going to be questions. Why are we spending on $1.5 million on another building? That's kind of where I was getting at with that. If that meeting discussion was available, I think that would have been a lot better. And even too, the discussion of what we're doing here would be a lot better too. But President, I see you're back on. I was just kind of filling time while you came back in.
This show belongs to you, so you have to step in when I freeze up. I'll rely on you. But anyway, let's see. I think Secretary Gardapi's next, and then Carol, and then we'll go to our Attorney General. Secretary Gardapi.
Carol's hand was up.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Carol. The floor is yours.
Okay, Jordan, you always have really good questions. I want to answer your question, your comments you brought up about communication. We had an excellent forum, and at that forum, there were many of our tribal citizens who got up and gave personal testimony as to how serious this problem is within our community. And so it really came out of the forum as like the number one issue that we needed to address. And at that time, President did, and Dr. Evans did relay to the people that this was an item of top priority at that time to address this problem. And the comment was made to us that, what are you going to do now? That's going to be a year or two off, and it will be pretty quick for a facility to put people in treatment. We need in treatment for our people, but we need help right now. And that was the thing that we talked about. And what was brought up was that we will establish a summit on this with the community people, bringing in lots of our members who have experienced this in the community, the workers that we currently have, just a whole group of people. It was a good idea by the president, and I am supposed to get the summit together. However, I have not put that group together yet. But we did address all of those issues as we went forward with this, and it was determined that we should go forward with it. It is approved by ARPA. And the short term, you ask, what are we doing with what we have now? We have quite a bit of money in our budgets now, federal funding to address some substance abuse. And what we were going to do is this work group, look at what we have and redirect those dollars if we have to get what is truly needed for our community short term right now, because that was one thing that kept coming up, that what we're doing now isn't working. And so that was the solution, was to redirect our current funds. So we're in a direction to do that, to use what we have now to redirect it and make sure that we're meeting the current needs as we get this much needed facility built. But with all that being said, I wanted to answer your questions because those were concerns of the people. But we, as the COVID committee we had started out with a temporary, when we do have the permanent COVID committee in place for president to appoint today. But there are 3 of us council members who have been working on COVID all through this. And that's Councilman Butler, Councilman Gardapi, and myself. And the PBC already voted on this. It's already been voted on, and we 3 voted for it. So based on all factors, because it's not just building a building. It was way deeper than that. So I hope that answers some of your questions. And I was going to make a motion that we pass it, but I'll let everybody talk first, President. There's a lot of hands up. I'm finished.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Carol, for updating us on that. And yes, I think what we discussed at the COVID forum was to have an internal summit among our tribal programs. We have a lot of programs that could be directed or redirected to this meth problem that was raised at the forum. And I think that's the first step, is to create do an internal summit to inventory what we already are doing. How can we redirect some of those services to this problem in the near term, immediately? Those efforts, I think, could be supplemented by hiring some counselor or whatever else might be needed in the near term through these ARPA monies. But the first step is to inventory what we are already doing, see what we can do in the near short term, and then make that so. And so that refreshes my recollection on that. It's something that falls to this council to do, and we need to move forward with that. Let me see. I believe Secretary Gardapi was next, and then I'll go to Dr. Evans, and then to Attorney General.
Yeah, I just wanted to, well, first of all, I didn't get to thank you, Vice President Canujo, for allowing me to change the meeting date. The Ascension RS CEO was in town that day for our originally scheduled meeting, so you would have, we would have been able to talk to them directly. And I know you couldn't make it after we changed the meeting date, but I do appreciate you allowing me to do that. As far as the building, in essence, this is a loan, in my opinion. This is how I look at it. It's a loan. It will be paid back in full, and I have full confidence that it will be. So in essence, I think we're just helping them get to the next stage, and it's not actually going into building. They gotta have infrastructure for programming and architecture and all that. And the money that they got, the $3 million grant, this will provide for what's not in that grant as allowable expenses. Because we know that the building costs are going to be pretty astronomical, but there's a lot of funding out there right now that they're going to go after. So us providing that helps them get to that next stage. And I do think it will be paid back within a year. We didn't vet this through COVID committee, but I still feel confident that, once we do have an official meeting, we're going to let them know where we have spent some money, because this isn't the only thing we spent money on. It's just the largest amount that we're going to spend on. And I really feel confident with the committee that we're choosing, that they'll agree that this was pertinent expense for what we have in our ARP funds. And also it will temporarily take money away from COVID, like as far as direct services to our tribal members. So in saying that, I just wanted to plug our ERAP program that Cynthia Butler is the coordinator for. We have funding there to help any Pawnee tribal member, wherever they may live, with rent and utilities. And they can go to PawneeNationHousing.org to get those documents, and they're now fillable documents, so they can actually fill them out online. And also, this week we just submitted a request for funds for our homeowners assistance fund. We're still in the process of making that go live with the Treasury. So that'll be an option for homeowners out there also. So that's coming down the line. But like I said, that I just wanted to address those concerns with you. And I'm hoping that when that money does return to us, that it can go back into the ARP decision making, back to the COVID committee. Because that's a great process that we're developing. But that's all I wanted to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice. Thank you, Secretary. And what my takeaway is from what you just said is that, and this goes back to Vice President's concern about no more buildings with the COVID money. Technically, as he just said, this is not going to be used for a building. This money will be back in our hands before anything is built in 1 year. But it's simply going to the fundraising and pre-planning effort. We will have a new building down the road, but it will not be built with this COVID money. It will be built with other money, and and I do also think, just to say that, we didn't intentionally bypass a COVID committee. We don't have a COVID committee yet. We'll be creating one. If there was a COVID committee in place last month, this project would have been vetted there before it came to this body, but we're just now getting around to establishing a COVID committee, I guess. So, I hope that gives added reassurance to you on the no building, using this money for any buildings, if we took that to heart. Furthermore, and finally, we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. And when that $1.5 million comes back, gosh, this pandemic may still be going on, and we're going to have to hold some money in reserve, I think, for contingencies. If this pandemic surges and resurges or whatever, it's very going to be prudent on us, because this money's supposed to last us, I think, 3 years. And so when that money comes back to us in a year from now, maybe we could use that. That could be part of our reserve fund that I think we should try to have some kind of a reserve fund here. So with that, let me go now, if I may, to Dr. Evans and then to the Attorney General.
Thank you, President Echohawk. I just wanted to comment that I know folks want us to have it's good we're doing long-term things. What can we do right now for our mental health amongst our people? And I think I know we will do what we can to help on those right now issues. But the problem is there's no infrastructure in this part of the state, right? It's not like we're adding to something where there's something already there. There is nothing in this part of the state. As I've said at other junctures, working as an emergency room doctor, as I have in the past, I have a mental health patient come in who needs hospitalization, and it would often take us hours to find a bed for that person, and require them to drive to the other end of the state, or be driven to the other end of the state to do it. Sometimes 3-4 hour drives. There is a need, and I kind of liken it to if as far as the infrastructure, if we think of it like if this was 150 years ago, and we could buy cars, right? That'd be great. We'd be able to move a little more. But without roads, it's only a little bit of what the potential of a car would be. When we build this infrastructure, mental health wise, for our area and for our people, will be astronomically better. And I also think that the infrastructure that goes into this will help us with the potential for moving into other areas of healthcare independence. So I think having a way to put our toe in the water with very little risk is just a fantastic thing. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you for those good words. I appreciate that. Dr. Evans, let me go now, if I may, to Attorney General.
Let me just suggest that this resolution has very limited scope. It just authorizes the president to assign federal monies for a project. It doesn't obligate the PBC to this project. All those things have to come down the line, contracts for consulting services, for other things. But I do want to suggest that the attachment to the resolution, I think Brian had, was called a term sheet, is a really good outline of the process that's anticipated, the roles of the Ascension, the roles of the PBC. I'm sure they've done it before. It's a very solid plan. So if you really want to share something with your constituents as to what's going on, that term sheet, I don't think there's any proprietary information in it. There's no numbers, but it gives a great overview and perspective of what the mission and the process is.
Thank you for that, Attorney General. And I'd also add that I guess the legal challenge at hand will be to reduce that term sheet into contractual form. And so that we'll just take that term sheet, put it into an enforceable contract that protects the nation, and then we'll bring it back to this body once that's ready to go. But I think that's the challenge, is to take that term sheet that's been put together and put it into a contract. Vice President, I see your hand is up, sir.
I believe Treasurer Chapman had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carol. I keep overlooking you. It's where you are on my particular screen. It's hard for me to look down and over like that. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
Okay. I would like to go ahead and make a motion that we approve this resolution, giving the president signature authority to contribute this to this ongoing project, based on the fact that the 3 current COVID committee members were the original 3 current COVID members, and all voted to pass it. The PBC voted to pass it. So I would just like to go ahead and follow on through with that.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and we have a second. Before we, I'd like to call on Vice President if I could at this time. His hand is up, and then we'll hear other comments on the pending motion. Vice President?
Yeah, thank you very much, President Echohawk. I appreciate our council for expressing, and also to just elaborating on where we at right now. Knowing that it's a loan and we're going to see it coming back to us next year, depending on when the disbursement is, I feel a little bit more comfortable with doing this, knowing that later on we'll see this 1.5 million back. And yeah, you're right. We don't know where we're going to be with this pandemic. Nobody anticipated the Delta variant to be as it is and more contagious as it is. And so we don't know what may happen next year. So this may come in handy down the road. To me, I have to look at it in the sense of communicating it to our constituents. I have to look at it in that sense, because I know that's going to come up. The questions are going to come up. Why'd you guys spend $1.5 million on this? And yeah, as what you explained is it's going to come back to us even before the building is fully built and everything else. But still, people will just see, some of them will just see it as it's a building again, and we're doing that and all that stuff. With that, kind of just going off of with our Attorney General, is that I think we probably should do something to really communicate this project to our constituents as well, just so that they know, like what Brian explained, this started back in 2018 with community input, and even from the survey that we conducted at the beginning of this ARPA funding, it was a need that came across, and from the forum as well. Showing them maybe how it's going to be, where it's going to be located, what's the facility going to be like, what's it really going to do, how much of a big impact it's going to have for our community. Maybe just a quick 2-minute video or something with some nice little effects and everything else. I know you all know how to do all that stuff, so I look forward to seeing that video. No, I'm teasing. But just something like that we can share on our website, share on our social media platform as well, because this is something that I think will be very beneficial to our tribal members down the road and everything else. And so just a thought, I think we should probably do something like that as well, just so that they know. And since I brought it up, I'll probably be volunteered to do it. But either way, I mean, I think we need to look at doing something as well, just to communicate to our members as well, so they're understanding.
Thank you, Vice President, for those wise words. I think it would be a very good idea, possibly Brian, if you could prepare a kind of a written press release, sort of a one pager that we could post on our outlets that addresses this, and then circulate it with the council for feedback. Let's try to get something posted next week if we can. And then if I could ask Vice President Canuho if he would be so kind as to volunteer to do a video on this for our members as well, that we could post on our Facebook page, and on behalf of the council, that would let our members know what we're doing and why, and why that's so very consistent with the priorities that we have received since 2018 to the present, and also consistent with the forum that we conducted in July, I believe it was. that would be very helpful, and it would cut off a lot of concern, a lot of angst, a lot of questions, and a lot of confusion amongst folks that follow our governmental activities.
Yeah,
Would that be,
mind.
would you do that for us, sir?
Yeah, I don't mind doing that. And I'll get with Brian to get a lot of the information needed to put that out there. I think the more information our citizens have, the better they're informed. So definitely, I'll get with him on that.
And you could also add that the council is going to go into decision-making mode here shortly in a very deliberate fashion to prioritize every dollar that we're able to mount in our campaign here. So excellent. Well, I think, okay, so we have a motion. Sammy's hand is up. Sammy, floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. I just have a question real quick for Carol. Carol, did we ever receive the remaining ARPA funding or not yet?
Not yet. Harrison, and we've got a message to I think it'll be, what is it, another month?
Do you know what that amount is? Just a swag?
I think, what did he say? I'd hate to give out the wrong information.
At least $1 million, but I don't know.
Okay. Thank you. I also wanted to for us to be mindful that this will also be a revenue stream as well.
Yeah.
Yes, that was another point.
Yeah, it'll be a
revenue stream.
Mm-hmm. So
Right.
Thank you for your time. Yep, thanks. I'll take my hand down.
It's a step towards diversifying our economy, which I think is long overdue, you know, and it really is going to give an opportunity for some of our enrolled tribal members who are in the medical field to move home and practice their profession here in our community. So, gosh, I'm having a hard time thinking of a downside on this project. As the more I think about it, the better I like it. Anytime I have a concern, I take it to Brian, and he's got an answer for it. So I'm feeling pretty good here myself. But okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion, any further discussion on this matter or this motion? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, if you'll call for the vote, please, sir.
Jordan Canuho,
Yes.
George Gardapi, yes. Carol Chapman,
Yes.
Cynthia Butler,
Yes.
Donna Hare,
Yes.
Gene Evans,
Yes.
Tammy Kimball.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Motion unanimously carries. Thank you, Brian, for your presentation, and congratulations to you, sir, on your hard work thus far in this life-saving project that you're working on, and your time and attention today, and for everything you're doing for the nation. Next item is the approval of our COVID committee appointments, and I would like to turn that presentation over to Carol, if I may, as our chair of that committee.
I'm sorry. I'm turn that phone on. Okay. Okay, which one are we doing now? The COVID committee. Oh gosh, yes, that important committee. Dang, we finally got some people to give up their time, and we got a really excellent committee of community people. And of course, we have put a combination trying to get a real good input from all parts. So the 3 council members that are on there are myself, Councilwoman Butler, Councilman Gardapi, and we have 2 chiefs who have committed to being on there, and that is Chief Matt Reed and Chief Gilbert Beard. And then Dorna Writing In has agreed to participate. She's very involved with lots of programs in the community, gives a lot of personal service. She agreed. And then Teresa Jones, who is out of jurisdiction, she agreed. We will be meeting virtual. All of our meetings are virtual. That was her concern. So she was very, gave a lot of good input at the forum, and is just very interested in the programming for our people. So we have our committee in place. We're ready to go, and it's an excellent committee. So,
Carol, I want to thank you for assembling such a wonderful, wonderful team. It sounds to me that we're in very good hands with this group, and they're coming to the aid of our nation in a time of need. And I couldn't be more proud to adopt these as my recommendations to this council. As president of the nation, I will also be ex officio to the committee, an ex officio member, and requesting that you include me in all of your deliberations and discussions as we go forward. And so, council, with that, I advance this list as my recommendations for this all-important committee during this pandemic, and ask for I will be asking for a motion to approve it. I guess this is my recommendation. I see Vice President's hand is up, and I'll recognize you at this time, sir.
Thank you, President. I also want to mention Susie Knife Chief as well. I don't think you.
I'm so sorry. I didn't have my list. Very important. Another community person who's deeply involved and gives a lot of service. Susie is also on there. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Jordan. What would we do without you, Jordan? Your bright young mind.
I just want to make sure she was also
yes.
Well, thank you for that. Now, do we have anybody else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Well, this
sorry,
is
Susie.
This is a good group. There's 8 members, and I think it's adequate. I think if we make it much bigger, it could get out of hand. You know, how many members does it take to change a light bulb, kind of thing? Let me just ask one question, however, and I wonder if Dr. Evans needs to be on this committee.
He's most certainly welcome.
From the medical standpoint, he does chair our medical committee. He is a community health practitioner here. It does make sense to me that possibly at risk of making this a large committee, I just wanted to broach that. You know, it does come to my mind that his absence on a committee of this nature might be a misstep on our part. You know, I just wanted to float that. Gene, Dr. Evans, and Carol, what do y'all think of that idea?
Well, that is an excellent idea, and we would love to have him if he has time. That's up to him. He's got an invitation.
I want to be respectful of your time, Dr. Evans, and I think that this committee in the near term is going to sort of be a workhorse committee. And if you were willing to serve, it would be, of course, subject to your time availability. In other words, if you can't make all of these meetings, at least you're plugged in. And so I pose that to you. We pose that to you as an invitation to consider.
Yes, sir. And yes, thank you very much for the consideration. And I surely want to be available to help in any way I can, especially on medical issues as we broach that side of things. I also recognize there may be, you know, meetings I might not be able to make during the day, but I sure want to help in every way I can, and I absolutely would love to be a part of this.
Okay, so we'll put down Dr. Evans then, and of course, realizing, Carol, that he's going to be subject to his schedule, and he may not be able to make all of these meetings, but at least he'll be plugged in and have the opportunity, and so.
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Evans and Susie Knife Chief would be also on this. I see Dr. Gardapi's hand is up.
Yes, yes, you got it right. Thank you, thank you. No, I was just gonna tell Dr. Evans that we've already discussed it and we'll be meeting after 5 when we do meet.
Yes, after 5.
Okay, excellent. That's past my bedtime, folks.
President
You already have
Egelhoff,
your PJs on, huh?
I'll make a motion to approve your recommendation for the COVID committee.
Aho, thank you, Cynthia. Is there a second?
I'll
I'll
second
second.
with the, oh,
Too late.
I'll say with the addition of Dr. Evans. As far as discussion goes, one thing that I would like is just the purpose of the committee, so that, we have Turk, our Travel Emergency Response Committee. They're overseeing a lot of the things that are going with COVID situations. I just want to make sure that they're not thinking that this COVID committee is making COVID decisions as it pertains to health. As we're including Dr. Evans in this committee, I don't want them to think that this is what that committee's for. So that would just be my only thing with that.
I think that's a good remark, as always, Vice President, and good guidance and suggestions. This committee is going to be, it's included as a centerpiece of our decision-making protocol, that a lot of our ARPA spending decisions will be emanating from this committee to the council. And so for that reason, Carol, this COVID committee is going to have to be consulting closely, of course, with the budget committee on the one hand, so that when you make a recommendation to this body, it's already been vetted with the budget committee. So we know the money is in place, and that part of it will, you will have received, hopefully, the approval of your recommendations of the budget committee before it comes to this body. And I think the same way with the Turk would be the Turk and the medical committee would also be committees that the COVID committee would want to collaborate with as needed as well. But I would like to see in our protocols that has already been circulated, and I think approved, I guess they're approved by the council here, that most of these decisions will come before the council from the COVID committee, and I'd like to have them fully vetted, legally sound, and allowable decisions by the time they get to this body, so that all we got to do is, is this a priority thing that we want to fund, and that we can make our lives easier when it comes to this state, so we don't have to do the legwork. And we don't have to say, we can safely assume that everything's legally sound, allowable, and vetted. And so that's the task of this committee. And it's the centerpiece and it's a reason why we created the COVID division. Of course, you're going to work hand in glove with the COVID division here. That's why we created this infrastructure, and we want it to be a sound, solid, and reliable and efficient. So we don't make any of our lessons learned or missteps from our first go around, last year, so that's my vision, at least for this committee.
We could do a press release.
That would be good. And
We'll do a press release.
If you want to publish, and I think our decision-making protocol that has been circulated should be our Bible that we go by on our process. And you could also circulate that if you want, or incorporate that protocol by reference and attach it to your mission statement. This is a new committee, and I think it would be good as your very first official act to have a Teams call with your committee internally, an orientation of the committee about the mission and what their roles are going to be and what the timelines we're looking at and everything they need by way of orientation, which has lately become a magic word for us. We want all of our new committee members, board members, commission members to receive an orientation before they actually take office and roll up their sleeves. That falls to the chairperson of the committee to do that orientation, and I can't think of anyone better, Madam Treasurer, than yourself to make sure that your members have their orientation. So,
Okay, we'll do that.
oh,
We'll do it present.
okay. Yes, good. Okay, because then we'll be up for rolling here, and then I don't know. I don't want to linger on this item as we got a big agenda ahead of us yet. But again, I hold open the offer to host for this body a retreat again to as we go into the next level of our decision-making process for the council. At your leisure, you know, and I hope we can do that as a luxury item to allow us that space and time, you know, to contemplate what we're going to be doing here, you know. So I'm at the pleasure of this body in terms of scheduling that, and maybe the chairperson, you could coordinate that with me and the council. Would be appreciated. So, all right. So with that, thank you, council. Motion carries again unanimously. And with that, we move to the last item of new business, and then maybe we'll take a little.
Sorry, was there a vote?
No,
was there no vote? Oh, okay.
Okay,
I'm
I was about to
getting
say, I
ahead of
think I
myself.
missed it.
Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that, and keep me from careening off into space here. Okay, we're ready for a vote here, or is there any further discussion or comments? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, if you would please call for the vote.
Jordan Canuho,
Yes.
George Gardapi, yes. Carol Chapman,
Yes.
Cynthia Butler,
Yes.
Donna Hare,
Yes.
Gene Evans,
Yes.
Demi Kimball.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carries unanimously. And thank you, Carol, for bringing forward these this committee and these committee members. Congratulate each committee member. You're called upon to do some very important work for this nation at a time in need. We're placing a grave responsibility on your shoulders, and know that we are in good hands. Our next item here is the approval of the child care renovations contract not to exceed $429,872.22. Who's going to present on this item, please?
I will.
Sky, welcome to our gathering here, and I just want to take this opportunity as president of the Business Council to welcome you to our tribal staff leadership in our planning division there. And just to say to you, thank you for coming to the nation, and please take a moment here to introduce yourself to us and let us know who you are, what your background is, how come you come to our nation at this time in your life, you know, so we could get acquainted with you, because I know we've got a lot of good things that lay ahead of us, you know. So please take a moment to, you know, introduce yourself to our council.
I'm Sky Gahiga. I am the new tribal planning and tribal development coordinator, and I'm honored to work for y'all. And I I'm here today to present on the, let's see, the Pawnee Nation Design Build Bundle Projects FY21. And it's for the, which contain the Child Care Innovation, Public Safety Center, and the Greenhouse Design Build. Those are the 3 projects that are in this bundle. But right now we are focused on the Learning Center, GMP, which the total project estimate is, let's see, $429,870.22. Let's see, where would I start at? And that's where we're at. We have done the demo work, and so we're past the demo and we're moving on towards the construction part of it. And that's where we're at right now with this. And is there any questions that y'all like?
This is President Echohawk. Thank you. For my first question is, do we have the money set aside for this amount in our existing budget?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's all in budget. It was over a little bit, but I talked to Susie, and she approved it and everything, so she's fine with everything. So everything is in order, and it's just waiting on approval from you guys, and yeah.
Thank you. Has this does this come to us with a recommendation from the Budget Committee?
Do what?
Does this item come to us with a recommendation from our Budget Committee? Typically, before we pull the trigger on a monetary amount, the matter needs to be vetted by the Budget Committee and then advanced from the Budget Committee